These buildings are all about businesses. A lot of things have been making small and medium enterprises life very difficult. Now, I've said this before. Actually, for the small and medium enterprises, Singapore companies, I'm talking about Singapore companies, not the GLCs. GLCs are normally very big, backed up by the government, and they have privileges of some sort. Okay, and MNCs have even more privileges when the EDP or the so-called the Enterprise Singapore went out to engage all these big companies to set up shop in Singapore. They will give a lot of tax incentive, even uh, manpower labor incentive, like how many EPs were given, right, as a prerequisite for them to come in. They are not subject to all the nitty-gritty, funny restriction that our local MNCs, local SME are facing. Now, SMEs in Singapore are very important, right? About 90% of, I think about 80 to 90% of companies are mostly local SME, like local companies. Now, they employ about 70 to 80% of Singaporeans, right? Imagine that, huh? So if they totio, that means a lot of Singaporeans is going to lose their job, right? Of course, SME also depended on a lot of foreign laborers, especially the medium and lower skilled foreign laborers. Some of them are able to employ those S-Pass. S-Pass is considered medium skill, EP, right? But they are facing a lot of obstacles, and lately even more. Okay, now if you follow my Facebook account, just yesterday, um, I posted a, a company called Digital Lock. Right? It's a local company which deal with digital lock, and people said it's a marketing gimmick and all that. I don't think so. Okay, because I know the rules. Okay, there are certain rules like this, right? SMEs companies are not supposed to rent warehouse, those B1, they call it a B1 industrial building, right? B1 is a warehouse, right? Mainly for warehouse. And warehouse, they allow you to use it for office, but only if I'm not mistaken, it's about 30 or 40% of the space can be used as office, but the other one, all the other parts must be used as warehousing, right? Or any permitted trade. Okay, you are not supposed to use it as a showroom, right? To receive walk-in customers, right? And so forth. Okay, now imagine this. The rules have been there for a donkey years. Okay, nothing new. Of course, actually a lot of SME is actually are in breach of it, but I don't want to sabo, right? But apparently someone 看这个公司不顺眼呐、these digital lock companies, maybe competitors and all that. So they cannot spot check. Actually, it's quite funny, right? It's quite funny. I do not know whether there's an exception. According to the rules, they said, oh, you want to change the use of the premise, right? This warehouse premise, you have to apply. You have to apply to URA or JTC or whichever to change repurpose the warehouse into showroom or office and all that, so on and so forth. Okay. Luckily, I only use my premise as a warehouse, purely warehouse, don't even have an office. Okay. Okay. So warehousing. The problem is this, okay? A lot of trade, right? They need large space. Apart from warehousing, they actually need large space to show their products, especially when they're SKU. SKU, that means individual product. One group of products, you can have different pattern one. The digital locks, there are many different digital locks, got different brands, right? And for sanitary toilet bowls and all that, right? If you ever, like me, I like to go and shop around hunting for good bargain and all that. I normally go warehouse. Normally those are warehouse. Normally it's on the first floor one, okay? First floor. They will have warehouse and bathroom products. Very common, whether it's in Jurong East side, IMM side, and or in Ubi, Kaki Bukit. A lot of all these are like that. Okay, but according to the rules, you are not supposed to do that, right? There's one company which sells utensils, the utensils for hawkers, for restaurants, for cafes. Most of you may not be in business, but I'm in F&B businesses. Uh, I also for my housing needs, my house, I always do my DIY. I go and look for things for myself. Right? It's quite common, right? Quite common. But there's one in Woodlands was actually forced to close down, right? Because not only they use it for warehousing, they also allow people to walk in and to go and select things and buy. I mean, it's quite common, right? Because there are, of course, other shop houses. Juchet is very famous for that. There are a couple of shop houses that sell all these kitchen utensils. One is in the this Chinatown, okay? But space is a constraint. But if you want to have big space for all these SKU, different products, one product can have varieties, and different product you have different products. How big is the space? You are going to rent a big space like that on this retail side, it will cost a bomb unless you own that building or you own the shop house. It will cost a bomb, right? But for some reasons, warehouse like IKEA, like Giant, right, like Harvey Norman, okay, like Courts, there's big warehouse in Tampines, right? They can use that for retail. I do not know what is the arrangement. I do not know how much they pay in extra, or are they paying what more than 500,000, like what the uh, digital thing, digital lock, right? Three shop space. He was actually nearly gonna fine. He was asked to put up $500,000 for 3 years. I do not know with the amount of space that IKEA is taking, for example, in Tampines, how much are they paying extra? Or they have special clause or special terms and conditions for them to do it, right? Uh, okay. Uh, this is a bit of public education on business side. Okay, we must understand our small and medium enterprises because if their cost is going to go up, then who bear the cost? It will translate to us, the consumers. Correct, right? It's very simple. 羊毛出在羊身上嘛 correct. Now, in Hong Kong, right, because of the deindustrialization, a lot of all these past in industrial warehousing and even factories are being vacated, all shift to Shenzhen. So a lot of companies start to rent these cheap warehouses because the rental is damn expensive one, right? In the town, in the retail space, especially retail. So they will go to the warehouse, right? They can have a small businesses. It actually encourage entrepreneurship. Okay, there are small and big companies that went into it. Like even small like doing business like natural, healthy food. Okay, organic food. They go into the warehouse. They have no choice because the rental is just too high. They just shift it in, and it just helps. Or else all these warehouses are going to be empty, right? And the landlord, those owners, will go bankrupt. Correct. So the Hong Kong government just close one eyes, right? It allows this to happen, right? And actually, it's quite a boom. You start to have a lot of varieties. That's why you see in Singapore, you hardly see good varieties of anything. Whether it's going to be, for example, I sell tea, right? Tea accessories are very difficult to find. But in Hong Kong, I can find great varieties of it, right? Even fashion, it's very difficult to find. But in Hong Kong, you can find great variety because some of these fashion companies, they actually move to the warehouse and start to sell from there, right? They call it warehouse sales, right? But Singapore, we have this strange, still, I would say, consider outdated rules that forbid this warehouse to be used in such a way. But you know what? Some of the warehouse, which turn into some office or something, during the Saturday or Sunday, it actually becomes a gathering of churchgoers, right? So, so there one period of time, wow, URA and all this start to spot check again. Wow, you're not supposed to use for religious activities and all that. Right? That's how it works in Singapore. We follow the rules to the dog. Okay. Now, someone asked me which shop house in Woodlands is forced to close down. It's not a shop house. It's actually in a warehouse, right? There's one row of warehouse, very famous row, where the first floor normally have showroom one, right? I think it's a what Boon Huat or something like that. Right? I can't remember the name for kitchen utensils. You are forced to. I know because I used to buy all my tea, some of the tea accessories for that. But what about that? They said they are going to close. I said, huh, why? Because not allowed. They were warned and not allowed to use it for uh, for retail, something like that. Do you know how many big pots and pans this company sell, and what type of space constraint you will need if it's going to sell in the shop houses? If you go to some of these utensils, kitchen utensils, especially those selling to those big restaurants, hawkers alike, huh? You can't even walk inside because it's going to be very so packed. All those stuff are very big. It's actually more than a fire hazard. The concept of the rationale of preventing this to be converted into retail, right? A lot of reasons can be given. Fire safety, for example, right? Fire safety is one of them. And the rules stipulated that this is for warehousing. B1 is not supposed to be. Even if you want to convert the whole thing into office, you also cannot. Why? Because this type of industrial park space supposedly was sold at much lower cost to this warehouse the industrial buildings builder, right? So for those offices, right, the proper offices, which are in CBD, right? CBD, why is very expensive. Per square foot can go up to $10 right now, or even $15. I do not know. Huh? It's going to be very expensive. Depend on size, right? So they want to protect these landlords. They have paid a lot more for the land in this area. Of course, capital land owns a lot of REITs, a lot of shopping mall. If everybody go to warehouse to open their this so-called retail, then who want to rent from them? Well, I guess that is part of the reason. Okay? But look, different trade will need different configuration. We must understand that, right? Okay. Different trade will have different configuration. We used to have IMM. IMM is supposed to be an industrial, commercial industrial park, but it was converted into shopping retail. Why? IMM converted for furniture. Used to be for furniture, correct? Those who are my age will know. In the 1990s, IMM is especially for furnitures and for those what wedding, those people who prepare wedding. Right now, I think more or less that sector actually too expensive. Even that down there is too expensive to maintain in IMM. So you see less and less furniture shop. Why? This trade needs a lot of space, correct? And how are they going to pay the rent? Because IMM is considered as a retail space, right? That's a fact. So different trade have different configuration, especially for those who are doing trade with bulky items, bathroom, kitchen, right? Renovation companies, right? There's so many trade we are going into the warehouse, and certain trade doesn't really need retail space. That doesn't need walk-in customers. What what trade? For example, T-shirt. Those who are doing T-shirt, printing T-shirts and all that, they don't need it, right? So if they are not going to do it in industrial, commercial, those are industrial park, right? Or warehousing, where are they supposed to do it? Correct? And those who are doing printing, for example, if we printing cannot go there and look at samples and all that. Walk in, what? Correct? Or not? I also look for printers to print labels, to print cards and all that. And I have to take a look at the materials that was used. I have to go there, what? So different trade really have different. You're selling fashion, maybe not, lah. But nowadays there are a lot of people are selling fashion through e-commerce, right? Through influencer. So they do not need a retail space. The dynamics of commerce, the dynamics of retail have changed. Not many brand or not many people who are doing this sort of a trade will need retail space because we have e-commerce. We are selling through Lazada, we are selling through Shopee, right? So whether the government like it or not, retail space in the mall will die off. The demand will die off. And it's partly due to these REITs, because these REITs are like big customers, right? Like big chain stores. So name me one shopping mall that are short of chain stores, but only for small retailers. Small retailers means 个体户, right? Last time I have one called Macau Computers. Right? We are very small, right? Right? But we are happy because we do small businesses just to serve our customers. It's about service, bringing products nearer to our customers. But now no need because we got e-commerce, Shopee. People are buying online. No need anymore, right? So these trades are actually dying. They can't pay the type of retail space, the price. One small retail space, what, 10,000, 8,000, 10,000 per month. How many things have you to, your turnover had to pay to make? Yeah. But if you keep this outdated rule, totally outdated rule, you are not helping. It's not helpful. It's not helpful to the economy. Really. Last time, in my parents' period time, to start a business, you have low cost, right? With a very low cost, you can start a business. Right? Rental is cheap. Even retail rental is cheap. Hawker centers, the hawker stores are cheap, but now it's different. Right? You are killing off entrepreneurship if you have all those funny restrictions. And digital lock, right? I believe is one of the most successful digital lock company. This company, I happen to have visited their new space. I know which space he's talking about being asked to pay 500,000, right, for 3 years. My goodness, 500,000 for 3 years. You go and count 1 year. That means it's what 360 months. Uh, 36 months. So 500,000. That means what 1 month is at least 1 month is at least what 100,000 more. You are asked to pay. That means 1 month 100,000 more. 100,000 more than 100,000 additional cost to his business. How is he going to make money? It's crazy, but he's willing to do it. I do not know why. Right? 这盘生意一定是输钱的。Before you earn money, you already lose money to government. Okay. Now, if you are talking about warehouse, if you visit any warehouse, I believe not many of you have actually gone into warehouse, right? Some are very dark, some are very, you know, with car go in and not conducive. That's one of the reason, because of design of the warehouse, the modern warehouse. Because the modern warehouse is unlike the past. The modern warehouse, the car actually can go up to the floor, right? For the ease of loading and unloading. Okay. Now, it's not conducive for pedestrian or for people to walk around, right? It's more dangerous in that sense. Okay. That might be one of the reasons. But for shop spaces on the ground floor, actually there's not much of a problem if your facing is actually facing outside, right? It's not much of a problem you are on the ground floor. It's only for those who are badly designed warehousing, which are mostly used for what? For example, for car repairs, right? 很杂的 car repairs, then it's not conducive. Okay. So if I'm going to be the one in charge, for example, right, national development, I will dictate, right, special category of warehouse. I will assess whether this warehouse is conducive for customer, retail customer, walking customer to actually visit, right? Look at the design configuration. Then we decide. Some warehouse is just like a block of flats like that, right? Yeah, correct. So they are making life very difficult for the small and medium businesses. That's only one part of it. Okay, later part I will talk about later part. Right? These are for the retailer, those who are dealing with small little items. Right? Those are selling because of the e-commerce boom. People do not need a retail space, for example. But sometimes for item like digital lock, for example, items like bathroom or even furnitures or even renovation, you want to look at a house, you will need people to go to the place and touch it and look at it, and you cannot just sell on the internet like that. That's number one. But for them to actually get a retail space in downtown, sell. Then in a in a what Pongo got space or not? All are very monopolized by the REITs, and the rental is very high. There's no more those those are shop houses that we have in Amokyo, in Budo. No, no more. Then how are people going to do business? Last time you still can see renovation companies in in the neighborhood stores, shop house. But the new estate don't have neighborhood shop house anymore. Didn't you realize it? All are shopping malls. How many of these companies can afford? Okay, that's one of the questions I want to ask. Very simple. One of the person, one of the saying we have, those people who are up there making policies like this, making rules like this, I bet they have never run a company before. Right? They've never run a company on their own before. They do not understand, right, the differential between the trades, the different trades. Right? They do not understand the needs. Their job is supposed to facilitate the economy to be a boom, not to protect the interests of GLCs who own large retail space. Correct? Their job is not to protect those big especially those big companies that owns office space in downtown. Now, there will be people, there will be companies who need office space in downtown. Sure one, right? Correct? Definite. They're not in direct competition. It's different segment, right? It's different segment. Very simple. Right? Now, to do a proper display of stuff, you need space, as I have said. Even if you are selling lightings, for example, lightings, you there are certain lighting shops in the Jalan Besar. Wow, it's very difficult, very packed because the SKU is too many, right? But it's still okay. Lighting is still small items, right? But when you come to big items, how much space do you need, and how much will it cost for the rental? If the rental is going to go up, our cost of living will go up, right? Now, you can say, okay, I cannot change the rules. Okay, you can so-called punish the companies, the like digital law will use it. But if you really want to punish, there are a lot of companies doing that, you know. You just go one round, Ubi, Kaki Bukit, Jurong, right? Even Tuas. Now, NTUC have one warehouse, big warehouse in the Joo Koon, right? But is it a warehouse or is it a retail? It's both. Then I must ask, how much extra money did NTUC pay to URA? Open up the books, be transparent, or you are just bullying the small and medium companies. It is not right, lah. Time has changed. Businesses have changed. Business structure have changed. The way people do business have changed, right? And because of all this restriction, you either make the cost high and we suffer high prices, or you limit the variety of products that can come into Singapore. And we are restrained, we are restricted in our choices. And this is why I always find that when I'm in Hong Kong, as compared to Singapore, I have more varieties in Hong Kong as compared to Singapore. Right? Right? So so it's totally mindless. Someone will have to go and kick them in the back, us, right? And tell them to go and review all these stupid, very stupid rules, which they have made assumption for big companies who can pay them. But how about the poor small companies who are just doing special trade, you know? They are not IKEA, they are not Harvey Norman, they are not Courts. And you wonder why Singapore do not have what? Entrepreneurship. Lack of entrepreneurship. Of course, they kill us all. Okay. This is one of the things. Hey, okay. Now the second thing that came in, someone mentioned about the National Wage Council. Correct, you're right, you're right. Okay. Now this when the National Wage Council comes out with this guideline, it's actually not guideline, because it affects medium companies, especially medium companies in Singapore, or some of the small and medium companies in between, right? Because if you do not follow what they stipulated here, you will be penalized. You may not, you have a quota of foreign workers or EP reduced, or totally ban you from employing the employment pass. They have some new system I was told, right? I'm not familiar because my 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 business is a very simple business, one man show. Okay, one man show. Okay, now Singapore Business Federation have conducted a seminar, right, where the National Wage Council, some director of some what deputy executive director of Singapore National what SMEF, okay, that came to explain, and the director from MOM, right, to explain the new policies. Actually, I knew about this from one of my clients who are doing F&B. He said they are going to increase the minimum wage, right? The progressive wage, minimum wage for the S pass, right? And for the local staff also. He said cannot tahan because they are in F&B. Okay. Now, before we go into trade, let's see the data that is provided by them, not me, by them. Okay. He said the GDP growth year-on-year percentage. This is nominal GDP. It's not real growth. It's nominal. 2021 is 6%. Wow, looks great, right? But the employment rate is 6.2%. It's a anomaly when you have such a great increase in GDP growth, yet your unemployment rate is the highest among the 3 years, 6.2%. 2022 GDP growth is 3.5% nominal, okay. Unemployment rate is still 5.8%. The so-called resident unemployment rate, I think, is about 3% or so, or slightly less than 3%, right? That means a lot of foreigners are actually losing jobs, right? And 2023 up to now, projected one, right? GDP growth dropped to 3%, still positive, still okay. But unemployment rate is 5.8%. However, however, if you discount when we talk about real growth, you must look at the inflation rate because GDP will sure grow when your price increase. Definitely. So normally in economics, we actually have to discount by the inflation. Right? 2021, inflation rate is 4.7%. It's still okay. That means you have 6% growth in GDP. Your inflation rate is 4.7%. You still have real growth. But by 2022, while the GDP growth is 3.5% only, guess what? Inflation rate is the highest at 8.7%. That means instead of growth, you actually have a negative growth and recession. Technically speaking, right? Technically speaking, you are having a recession because after discounting from the inflation rate, actually you didn't grow at all. You actually regress. Right? 2023, right? Projected one is 3.0% GDP growth, right? but the inflation rate is going to be 6.9%. So still, we are not having the real growth. We are actually regressing. 行情不好, it means this is why you see our non-oil exports actually decreased substantially, more than 10% for the last two quarters. And guess what? Next year is even worse. While the unemployment is projected to be the same, 5.8%. 3 years, that means 2022 is 5.8. We are projecting, this year also 5.8. That means no substantial growth, no substantial improvement in the unemployment rate. Unemployment rate at 5.8% is very high. Our usual one is about 4%, 3% only. Right? Sometimes it's less than 3%, 2% plus. This is actually double. Okay. Now, 2024, GDP growth is 2.9% only, while we continue they project like 5.8% inflation. But I doubt this is going to be accurate because we have another 1% increase in GST. For every percentage increase in GST, there will be actually a spillover effect. It's not going to be just 5.8%. Okay, most likely it's going to be 6.9, just like this year. Okay, so we are actually suffering. We are suffering and expected to suffer no real growth from 2022 up to 2024. Right? And what does that mean? Just like I said, non-oil export actually drops, right? It means we have a big refinery, the world's biggest refinery in Singapore. Okay, so our GDP actually can be overwhelmed by this oil refinery export. That's why we always look at the non-oil export as a gauge of local economic health. If our non-oil export is going to drop 10%, 10%, 10% like that, the impact is going to be very huge. It means that SME mostly are the trade and services as well as the supporting industry for the MNCs. They are going to suffer. Right? Most of them are going to suffer in the coming months. Okay. Now, the worst part is this. This is not all. Our SME is actually suffering because the real growth is actually negative. Right? You have higher inflation than the GDP growth. Okay. The worst part is this. Our productivity actually is dropping, and is dropping very, very seriously. Right? 2022 overall productivity growth is actually negative 0.9. It means that the value add per actual hour put in to work have a negative returns, less than the cost of that effort. Okay, that's productivity growth, right? And if you look at the quarterly, right, apart from the second quarter of 2022, we have a positive 0.9, right? Other than that, the third quarter is minus 1.8%, 1.8%. The fourth quarter, the last quarter of 2022 was minus 4.9%. Okay, and 2023 is even worse. The first quarter is minus 6.6%. The second quarter is minus projected. Projected only, it might be higher or lower, but most of it is going to be much lower. Right? It's going to be much worse. Right? It's minus 4.7%. Right? Now, Here comes the problem. Unit labor costs have been increasing, right, in terms of percentage, up to 10% this year, more than 10%. Okay, inflation, CPI inflation rate is, we have said, 6.6% quarterly lah, right? About from range from 5% to 7%, and yet, and yet, the National Wage Council say what? You just read the news. All this data points to one direction. Businesses are actually not doing well, right? However, they try to tong, and they suffer a negative productivity. That means for the same number of work hours, all right? Work hours, that means for the same number of people they employed, right? They are earning less. That's why the productivity actually decreases. And the decrease is more than 4%. That means they're actually making less money or even losing money, some of them. This is how we look at statistics, economic statistics, that is. You can roughly gauge what is the real situation on the ground. When your so-called GTV growth is 3%, wow, looks good, right? But the CPI, the inflation is much higher. That means your raw materials are actually increased, right? Even when your GDP, so-called GDP, the price that you can get more, you can sell more revenue. GDP is all revenue, right? But due to the high cost and due to the lower productivity, SME is not doing well, If you are not careful, a lot of them will close shop. Okay, these are the hard data, not provided by me, provided by MOM and SNEF. Okay, this is right from the horse mouth. Okay, I don't speculate, or else kena puff mouth. Right. Now, even if it says, very strange one, no, it's not as if they do not know the situation. Okay, in the same seminar, they put out a slide that says GDP growth is expected to be supported by recovery in air travel. That means inbound tourists, but weighed down by weak external demand and restrictive global financial conditions. What it means? That means our export is going to be hit. That's why we suffer a negative 10% growth or recession in our export of non-oil domestic. They know the situation, right? They know the situation, but they still claim after all the data they gave us, right? Still no real growth, right? Nominal growth is less than the inflation. They still say, oh, looking ahead into 2024, by their own projection, there's no real growth. But they still say, oh, MTI, the Ministry of Trade and Industry, expects Singapore's GDP growth to pick up modestly from the low base this year. Huh? Are you sure? Nominal GDP growth means nothing when your CPI, your your inflation is going to be increased because all your raw materials will go up. Okay? Will go up. And it's by your own projection. And with an additional 1% GST there. Yeah. There it says, downside risk in the global economy remains. So you expect the downside of a global economy, right? I'm going to set these terms. Then I will tell you they are actually killing. They are going to kill a lot of SME later on. Why they exist, right? More persistent than expected inflation. They know it in advanced economies, right? An escalation in the war, they blame the war, but not themselves. I'm going to blame them for all the mess they are making. It says labor demand could ease further. What does it mean? Unemployment may actually goes up, right? And be uneven across industry. They know it. Different industry will have different performance, right? However, however, they want they want they want people to vote for them. So they do not want people to feel the pinch of the increase in water prices, increase in GST, increase in electricity tariff. So what they do? They're asking the SME, hey, so for next year, you must increase wages by at least 5.5%. Why 5.5%? Because the CPI is 5.5%, about there. Okay, next year, it says, right? Yeah, 5.1%. Anyway, next year projected 5.8%. So they say, okay, next year, no, all of you are supposed to increase your wages by 5.1% to 7%. Okay, so they don't want voters to blame the government for the inflation, right? Because they increase GST, because they increase water prices, because they increase electricity city tariff, right? Increase taxes on the water. This they are doing, the CPI increase is actually much of what they are doing. Right? This is one. But they don't want voters to feel the pinch, so they push the responsibility to the SME. Hey, you better follow our advice. Okay. In spite of the fact that they expect the economy, the export economy, which we depend, is going to suffer. Companies actually at the moment are not making money or reduce profit or even losing money. Okay, they're asking them to increase wages, or else if you don't increase, you cannot continue to have this quota for your foreign workers or the EPs. How smart they are. They know the situation, right? They know people are going to suffer high inflation rate, but they push the responsibility instead of them not increasing, not adding, stepping another another dagger on our back. He push it to the SME and tell you, hey, you better increase your wages to all the workers because SME employ over 70% to 80% of Singaporeans, right? And he says, wage increases should be fair and sustainable. How can it be sustainable when you already know by the raw data, by the basic data you are looking at, there's no real growth, right? Real growth is actually negative if you're taking into account the CPI, the inflation rate. Nominal is less than CPI. How can it be real growth? And how can it be sustainable when you continue to increase the cost of doing business? COE also increased to horrendous prices, right? Commercial vehicles prices, COE actually went up, right? And you still say, oh, taking into account the sustained productivity growth over longer term. Are you sure or not? Over the 3 years, productivity growth is negative. And what makes you think that there will be a positive productivity growth in the future? Give me your reasoning. And who is the one who says, oh, wage growth must go according to productivity growth? PAP itself, when they are stingy, when they don't want the government to actually increase wages, they don't want GLC to increase it, they use that as an excuse, remember? Correct? Now, where productivity growth is actually at the bottom, at the bottom, they knew it, right? Minus 6.6% for the first quarter of this year, minus 4.7 in the second quarter of this year. For 2020, right? It is also minus 4.9%, minus 1.8%. What makes you think? What makes you so confident? Productivity growth will actually increase, especially when electricity is going to increase, water price is going to increase, indirect taxes like COE is going to increase. What makes you so confident? Productivity growth is going to increase in the year ahead. Goodness me. I don't want to try to be rude, but this is speaking through their ass. And they do not, okay, they do not dare to project productivity growth for next year. This cannot be so. Right? They are going to screw up everything. Right? And it says NWC encourages employers to reward employees' wages increase that are fair and sustainable. I mean, even if the companies are losing money or not making money, when they face the high cost of doing business in Singapore, and with all the rubbish rules that you are going to impose, what, $500,000 on the firms that they actually utilize, trying to cut costs by utilizing space in the industrial area to do business, you impose a 500,000 betterment charges for 3 years. Every 3 years, you want them to pay $500,000 to you. And they keep contradicting themselves. At one point, you are telling people to increase wages. Another point, at the same time, uncertainties ahead continue to underscore the need for resilience and flexibility in wage structures. Huh? Then what do you want? Tell me. Okay. Now, wage guidelines. Hey, these are the wage guidelines. Huh? It says employers who have done well and have positive business prospect, okay, provide with a built-in wage increase at the upper bound of 5.5% to 7.5%. How many are really doing well? What do you mean by doing well? Of gross monthly wages, or a wage increase of at least $85 to $105, whichever is higher. Okay. Then employers who have done well but face uncertain business, also the same, right? Also 5.5% to 7.5% gross monthly. And employers who have not done well, right? It's from their slide, I can show you all the slides. It says provide with a built-in wage increase at lower bound, right, of 5.5% to a 7.5%. So you're not done well, you are still expected to give a 5.5% increase in monthly wage. So die, it means that whether you make money or not, right, I advise you to give 5.5% wage increment, regardless, even you are not making money. where got such where got such government one? Just because they have screwed up on the inflation. They have added on to the inflation inflationary pressure. When there is two wars, there are war going on, supply chain is being affected, yet they increase water prices, they increase GST, and now 要你们来买单, right? Okay. Now, the gross rate requirement. Die. Okay. The current one for administrative assistant is 1,005. Okay. From 1st July 2024, regardless of what is the economic situation, you want all the SME to increase to 1,008. Okay. And from 1st of July 2025, it should increase to 1,980. Right? This is micromanaging, right? I'll tell you why it's micromanaging. I do not know why they want to do it. Administrative executive, right? The current one is $2,000. So I say, okay, 2024 July, it must be $2,390. 2025 July, it must be $2,580. Wow, Singaporeans looks good, right? All of you will have increases, right? Correct, not? Right? For administrative supervisor, 2008, 2000, $3,000, over $3,000 by 2025, increase, right? Irregardless of what? Economic condition, productivity. So who says about wage increase should actually goes with productivity growth? They say, but they are not doing it. You see the point? Because they have failed in their so-called grand vision. Who have this grand vision? Who was the one who gave this grand vision? Do you know who? Your online Paman. He was the one who said, oh, for the next 15 years, way back in the 2012, if I'm not wrong, we will have consistently over the next 15 years, we will have 3%, at least 3% productivity growth each year. But for the last 3 years, not only we did not have 3% increase in productivity, we have negative. What does it mean? What does it mean? The cost of doing business here in Singapore are going up, while the potential of making money, of getting better revenue has gone down, right? Because when the cost of doing business in Singapore went up, your pricing of your product and services is not going to be competitive as compared to the other world, especially when our Sing dollars is too strong. It will hit on our export. Therefore, when the export went down, like I'm not 好销 one, it's already, right? Not 好销 one, went down. Our non-oil export actually went down. That is why the companies are suffering in productivity, negative productivity. Okay? There's no, you don't need a honest econ students to tell you this. Any econ students will understand that. Okay? And the worst thing, apart from that, they have a training requirement for the companies. Okay? It says, wow, you must send your staff for staff to one workforce skills qualification with no restriction on which course can be taken. Wow. It means what? If you have admin staff, okay, if she likes to go for a course, cooking course, or must send him or her to the cooking class. Right? One in the in-house training program. Right? Employers will be given a grace period to comply with the OPW, right? Training requirement. New hires, you will hire a new person. 6 months from the new hire's date of employment. Within 6 months, you must send him for a course. Right? Existing employees, okay, 1 year from the start of OPW implementation in March, right? I mean this year, right? So when you send people for course, who pay for it? Of course, you will say government got grant, not 100% grant, but got grant. But you know, when you want to take money from the government, very difficult one. You have to fill up so many forms. So my my friend was saying, if I have so many staff, I want to send them, of course, and for every staff, I want to apply grant for them. I will need to employ a clerk, especially doing the grant. That's how they actually they actually create job, right? Okay, okay. So when companies are actually not making money, just barely surviving, huh? You're actually putting additional condition on them to spend money for this. Okay? And when you're not making money, is it must transform jobs and invest in upskilling. Now, that's why my friends, these directors from MOM have never run a company before. Okay? Have never run a company before. When you are running a small and medium enterprises, right? You have very tight budget. You have to keep your costs in line. Right? They are not we are not like MNCs or GLCs, have deep pockets, can dig into that. And we do not have right? Spare workforce to actually cover people who go for courses. It's not like army. Army, well, anytime, I want to go to course, just go. Okay? It's not like that. All right? And there are some jobs, which is basic jobs, there's no skill upgrading. There will be certain skills needed, but you cannot be forever every year must go for skill upgrading one. Only the army can do it, right? Last time army, right? Every year must send for courses. Whatever course, never mind. Just send for courses. In the private sector, it's not like that, right? It's not like that, man. Right? Admin job, how do you transform an admin job and upskill this job? It's just an admin job. Not every job can be transformed, right? Can be upskilled. We must recognize that, right? We must recognize that. Now, you cannot fix a target increment in the wages, irregardless of the economic conditions and irregardless whether businesses are making money or not. You must buy what market forces, right? Because if you are going to fix that, micromanage at this level, and ask them, oh, you must send them for courses when people are just barely surviving or losing money, then you are going to kill them faster than need. Right? When a company is not making money or losing money, the first thing in their mind is what? Cut costs. If they cannot pay the market price, whether it's an admin staff clerk or admin assistant or admin supervisor, they will lose their staff. That's all. Right? It's the market forces that will determine. That's number one. Right? No need for the government to micromanage how much you should reach that target. No, you're not supposed to do so. This is worse than minimum wage system. Minimum wage, at least you only take care of the lowest percentile of the workforce. Right? Correct. And different companies have different culture. Right? Some people are willing to work for certain bosses at lower wages because they like their bosses, right? And they know that when the company is not doing well now, right? Of course, the bosses have to save money. If the boss doesn't survive, everyone lose their job, right? But they also know that this boss, if they recover from the bad state, they will reward the the employees. That's why they are willing to stick with the bosses, even taking a lower pay. It's okay, right now. But why would you want to set a rigid target minimum wages, putting pressure on these bosses, and you kill them faster? It doesn't make sense. So with all this, if economy is going to be dropped or not growing in the real terms, productivity is going to be negative, okay, more companies will close down. And more SME will close down. What's the result? More Singaporeans will lose their job. That is the only end result. Okay? That's the only end result. And the worst thing is this is only the recommendation. While you read from the newspaper, it says, oh, strongly encourage companies to give additional ang pao or 1 month, right, to the workers to tie over the high inflationary pressure. Hey, wait, who caused the high inflation in the first place? Who caused it? It's you, PAP. You increase the GST right from the start of this year. And next year, you are still going to increase the GST. Right? So who caused the inflation? 1% increase in GST does not equate to 1% increase in CPI, okay? That is only technicality. Right? Again, you want the SME to buy tan, where many of them are not actually doing well. Of course, some of them are doing well, it's okay. But I dare to say most of them are not doing well, right? Because they do not have tax rebate, tax incentive like the MNCs that you have or the GLC you have. They do not have great incentives that the big companies like IKEA, right? Do not what can you have warehouse converted into a shopping mall like that for retail? One small SME who just want to rationalize resources, right? And and get bought I think he bought the place, right? To do retail, you put additional betterment charges and only not one time, right? But 500,000, that means every month is about what? More than $10,000 additional. Sorry. Are you sure or not? Right? Then additional $10,000 per month. I think 15,000. You're adding cost to them in such a way. You're killing businesses. And it doesn't do you good when you start to kill businesses like that. Because please remember, SME are the backbone of the employment of citizens. Okay. You ask why opposition parties are not bringing up these problems in parliament? Because I'm not in parliament. Right? Because my team is not in parliament. When I see all this data, when I see all this presentation came in, I say, my God, this is not my speculation. The data comes from them. Okay. Because my team includes people who do real business, right? My team include people who do real business, successful business, right? But facing a lot of obstacles in doing business in Singapore, the direct taxes, right? And all sort of funny regulations, right? You might have noticed when they set up a regulation like this, oh, all foreign workers that comes in must be housed in dormitories or residential area, but not HDB, on work pass permit one. Construction cannot stay in work, stay in HDB. Then what happened? There's a great shortage of dormitories. And the fees for the dormitory actually increase prices almost every month. right? Right? So who earns the money? The dormitories owners are. And to build a dormitories, you need special license from URA. Okay. Only a special elite of group of people who run dormitories, who are given a license to run dormitories, will earn big money, because dormitories is still what? Still the same four walls. But due to this increase in demand, the rental keep going up. Now it's $700, I think, for one person. Living in a dormitory, not single room. My goodness. All right. That's an added cost. And I explained before, low skill workers who are doing construction, who are doing marines, who are doing cleaners, right? Those who are clearing your rubbish in your estates are jobs that not Singaporeans want. But why are they imposing such a high levy on the SMEs to employ these people? Even those who are in F&B, food and beverages, most of my clients are from there because I sell tea, right? Yeah, they said the government is imposing levies, and the levies is going up. Okay, it's going up, and you have a quota system which is not transparent, because nobody know exactly what is the quota ratio. Is there a differential between the big companies, the GLCs, the MNCs, and to the small and medium companies, or by case basis, so to speak? Right. And remember, I show you one example. Right. Big companies, big transport companies. Recently, there's a shortage of drivers for the school bus, correct? Because I've got friends also in school bus business. The big companies are allowed to employ foreigners. Last time cannot one, because it involved this vocational license for school bus, right? Allowed to employ foreigners to drive school bus. Last time cannot. Big ones can. But the smaller companies cannot employ foreigners to do so. Again, that's how it works in Singapore. Big companies can, small companies cannot. Both are facing the same problem. Why? Because the wages they cannot pay for school bus. They cannot pay high wages, because the fees for the school bus are actually controlled. Right? And the big companies, of course, got the advantage because they are the main contractors. The small school bus uh, provider, right? They are subcon. The amount they take is much lesser. They cannot pay high prices, and with such high inflation, petrol price go ahead up, right? And with the limited resources, the limited wages they can give to their drivers, people would rather switch jobs, go and drive Grab, right? So you will see we are going into a system that favors the rich and powerful, those who are bigger, and you are going to kill the smaller entrepreneurs, will die. The same with the wages system. The National Wage Council that comes out with all these guidelines, so-called. If you don't follow, no, you cannot get the perps, you cannot get grants, you cannot get a work permit and all that, right? Or EPs. While the MNCs, before they come in, you sign an agreement. Oh, I will give you so many EPs straight away without any conditions attached. The only condition is set up shop in Singapore. And EPs are not Singaporeans. It actually allows foreign countries, NMCs, to come to Singapore to do business, but to employ foreigners. That's what's the benefits to Singaporeans, right? Now, don't ever think that it's your boss problems. For those who are employed by small and medium companies, if your boss, your local company's boss got problem, and they cannot cope and eventually have a close shop, your jobs will be affected. Right? We should stand in unison. Don't ever think that, oh, it's only right for the boss to increase our wages to cover the inflation rate. Yeah, ideally. But if your boss is not making money and you force them to have such a pay increase, they go bust. And in the first place, who is the main culprit that resulted in such high inflation? It's not your boss, it's PAP. So vote wisely next time. Right? Thank you.